The silent war. The battlefield was quiet, too quiet, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath. Broken ships drifted across the void like the bones of fallen giants. Flames still burned on shattered hulls, but there was no sound. Only silence. In that silence stood her, the alien warrior, feared across the galaxy. Her armor was black and heavy, built from metals mined in dead suns. Each plate carried scars from hundreds of battles. To the galaxy, she was untouchable, unbreakable, the living symbol of her empire's endless power. But tonight something felt different. Her army had been crushed in the first wave. Her ships were gone. Her soldiers lay in silence, and still she stood, holding her blade, waiting for the final blow. Across the field of wreckage, a single human soldier stepped forward. His armor was not grand, not shining. It was simple and scratched from years of war. Yet he walked with calm steps, his eyes fixed on her. The galaxy had long feared her armor. Some whispered it was alive. Others said it was cursed. But no one ever dared to test it, until now. She raised her weapon, her body shaking under the weight of her broken war. The human stopped a few steps away. He did not raise his gun. He did not attack. He only looked at her, as if he could see something no one else could. For the first time in her long life, she felt uneasy. The silence pressed down on her like chains. She expected mockery. She expected violence. Instead, he asked a single question, his voice low and calm. "Why do you keep fighting?" She froze. No one had ever asked her that. Her enemies screamed at her, cursed her, prayed to never meet her again. But this human did not fear. His voice cut deeper than any blade. The armor felt heavier now, every plate pressed against her skin. Like stone, sweat rolled down her forehead. She could not breathe. She remembered the day they forced the armor onto her. Her empire told her she was chosen, that her body was a weapon, that she belonged to the war. But the human's eyes saw something else. He was not looking at her armor, he was looking through it, as if he saw the truth hidden beneath. "You don't have to," he said again. His voice carried across the empty battlefield, stronger than any gunfire. She wanted to scream back at him to tell him he was wrong. But the words never came. Her throat was dry. Her heart was beating too fast. Around them, the galaxy watched in silence. From distant ships, commanders and soldiers of many races stared at the scene. They did not understand why the human did not finish her. They whispered among themselves. Fear spread faster than fire. The alien warrior stumbled, her blade lowering by inches. She hated the weakness inside her chest. The human noticed but did not step closer. He waited. His silence was louder than her armor cracked. A thin line of silver light ran across her chest plate. It was small, almost nothing. But to her, it felt like the whole galaxy had seen it. She gasped. Her armor had never broken before, not in centuries of war. The human's gaze hardened. "It's not your strength," he said quietly. "It's your cage." Her body trembled. His words were fire against her soul. For years she believed her armor made her strong. For years she believed without it she was nothing. But now in the human's eyes, she saw the opposite. He saw her. Not the warrior. Not the empire's weapon. Not the legend wrapped in steel. He saw the one hidden beneath. The silence of the battlefield grew unbearable. Her heart beat like thunder in her ears. Her armor groaned. Again, the cracks spreading like spider webs. She screamed and fell to one knee. The plates shattered, one by one, breaking away and falling into the dust. When it was over, she was kneeling before him, the armor scattered around her like broken chains. For the first time in her life she was exposed. The galaxy gasped. No one had ever seen her like this, but the human did not raise his weapon. He simply whispered, "Now, I can finally see you." The silence returned, but it was no longer empty. It was the silence before something far greater, something the galaxy was not ready to face. The human's gaze. The battlefield was still. 1,000 eyes from hidden ships and silent stations watched the scene unfold. None of them could believe. Yet the invincible warrior, the Empire's dark blade, was on her knees. Her shattered armor lay in pieces, her body trembling in the cold air of the ruined field, and before her stood a single human, his weapon still untouched at his side, his gaze fixed on her. Not as an enemy, not as prey, but as something else entirely. She felt his eyes burn into her, not with fire but with a strange calm. His stare was heavier than her armor had ever been. He did not speak, yet his silence screamed louder than the chaos of war. For the first time in her long life, she felt naked, not because her body was uncovered, but because someone could see her, truly see her. Her lips curled in anger. "Kill me," she whispered. Her voice cracked, the galaxy's warrior, begging for death. She wanted the silence broken, wanted his gaze to end. It was unbearable, but the human only shook his head slowly, his eyes softened. "That's not why I'm here," he said. His words were simple, yet they carried weight heavier than any command she had ever obeyed. Her hands shook. She remembered the battles, the orders, the endless wars she fought without choice. She had been forged into a weapon, her soul sealed under armor, and now this human stood there tearing it apart with nothing but his gaze. The fleets above whispered, "Why does he not finish her?" Generals demanded answers. Admirals screamed. Armies trembled. To them, war was simple: kill or be killed. Yet this human soldier broke that law with his calm silence. Her eyes narrowed, trying to break free from his hold. "You mock me," she hissed. But even as she spoke, her voice lacked strength. It was not the voice of a warrior, but of someone who had been chained too long. The human took one step closer. His boots crushed the broken fragments of her armor. He looked down at her scars, old wounds carved deep into her skin. The galaxy always saw her armor, but no one ever saw what it hid. "You're bleeding," he said softly. She blinked, shocked by the words. Enemies had screamed about her blood, begged for it, cursed it, but no one had ever spoken it with concern. Not even her own kind. Her chest tightened. She hated the weakness inside her, hated how his gaze stripped her bare. "Why? Why do you look at me like that?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, almost broken. The human knelt down before her. Their eyes met. In his gaze she saw no fear, no hatred, only truth. "Because I see you," he said. The word struck her harder than any weapon. Her people never saw her. They saw the armor, the weapon, the legend, but this human. He looked past it all, past the war, past the lies, straight into what she really was. Her hands shook as she tried to lift her blade again, but her strength was gone. Her fingers slipped. The weapon fell into the dust beside her. Above, the galaxy panicked. "She's finished," some shouted. "The human has broken her." Others cried. Armadas prepared to move, but none dared fire the first shot. The silence held them like chains. The human reached forward slowly. His hand brushed the edge of a broken plate. It slid away easily, falling with a metallic thud. The sound echoed across the field. Her breath caught. No one had ever touched her armor without fear, yet he stripped it away like it was nothing more than a cage. "You don't need this," he said quietly. "Not anymore." Tears she never thought she could shed burned her eyes. Her heart raced. She wanted to deny him, to shout, to fight, but deep inside something told her he was right. For the first time she felt light. Her shoulders no longer carried the Empire's chains, her chest no longer crushed by iron. The silence no longer weighed her down. It lifted her. But then fear struck. If the galaxy saw her like this, if her empire saw her like this, they would kill her. They would erase her name, erase her existence, she whispered, trembling. "They will come for me." The human's gaze hardened. His jaw tightened. "Then let them come," he said, his voice calm, fearless. She stared at him in disbelief. How could one human stand against the wrath of empires? How could one gaze defy the chains of galaxies? The silence of the battlefield cracked, not with war, but with something far more dangerous. Hope. The secret she carried. The galaxy thought her armor made her strong. They believed it was her power, her curse, her shield. But only she knew the truth. Her armor was not a gift. It was a prison. The human stood in front of her, his calm eyes never leaving hers. The broken plates of her armor lay scattered around them. The battlefield was silent, yet the silence was not empty. It was heavy, waiting for something more. She wanted to look away, to hide her face, but his gaze held her. It felt like he could see through every scar, every wound, every hidden truth she had buried deep inside. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "You don't understand. I never chose this." The human tilted his head, his voice steady. "Then why keep fighting?" Her breath caught. Her chest ached with the weight of years. The memories came like a flood. Cold chambers, steel hands forcing the armor onto her. Voices declaring she was chosen, a living weapon of the Empire. "I was forced," she said. Her voice cracked. "They sealed me inside, since I was a child." The human's jaw tightened. His eyes darkened. Not with anger at her, but with anger for her. "They chained you," he muttered. "Made you their slave." Her body shook. She wanted to deny it, but she couldn't. Tears burned her eyes. For centuries she believed her strength came from the armor. Yet in truth, the Empire used it to control her. To them, she was never a person, only a tool. The fleets watching from above whispered in shock. Impossible, some said. The warrior was not willing. The idea spread like fire. Fear ran through commanders. If she had been forced, if the human was uncovering the truth, what else could humanity see? The alien warrior lowered her head, ashamed. "Without the armor, I am nothing," she whispered. The human stepped closer. His voice was calm but firm. "No," he said. "Without the armor, you are free." Her heart pounded. The words struck her harder than any battle. Her empire told her freedom was weakness, that chains were strength. But this human reversed it with a single truth. She lifted her eyes, staring into his. For the first time, someone didn't see her as a monster, a weapon, or a legend. He saw her as her. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you see me this way?" The human's expression softened. "Because I know what it means to be used," he said quietly. "And I know what it means to break free." The battlefield seemed to vanish around them. Only his voice, only his gaze remained. Her hands clenched. She remembered the lives she ended, the worlds she burned, the chains she could never escape. Her soul felt heavy with guilt. But the human did not look away. He did not hate her. He did not fear her. Instead, he reached down, picked up one broken plate of her armor, and let it fall from his hand. The sound of metal hitting the ground echoed like thunder. "Your cage is broken," he said. "No one can force it on you again." She stared. At him, her breath shook. "If they see me like this," she whispered, "they will kill me." The human's gaze grew sharp. "Then I'll stand with you." Her heart stopped. She could not understand him. One human against the wrath of an empire, against the judgment of the galaxy. Why would he risk everything for her? Above, fleets trembled, generals argued. Some wanted to strike now, others wanted to retreat. No one could decide. The galaxy was afraid of what was happening on that broken battlefield, afraid of what the human's gaze had awakened. The alien warrior closed her eyes. For the first time, she felt something she had never known, a spark inside her chest, small but alive. Hope. When she opened her eyes, her voice was different, softer. "You saw me," she whispered. The human nodded once. "I see more than they want me to," he said, his voice carried into the silence. A message to the watching galaxy. The secret was out. The galaxy thought she was a weapon, but now they knew the truth. She was a prisoner set free, and humanity had been the one to break her chains. And that truth was more dangerous than any fleet. A bond in the shadows, the battlefield remained silent, yet the silence was no longer empty. It carried whispers, carried fear, carried a new kind of power. Ships in orbit stayed still, commanders frozen by what they had seen. The unbreakable warrior's armor was gone, and beside her stood a single human who refused to strike. She felt weak, exposed, and yet, strangely, safe. The chains of her empire had fallen, but in their place stood uncertainty. If the galaxy saw her as nothing without her armor, then why had this human seen something more? The human watched her closely. His eyes never wavered. He saw her pain, her scars, her fear, but he did not turn away. He did not see her as an enemy. Not anymore. You don't belong to them, he said softly. You never did. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But deep inside, she knew he was right. For years she fought battles she never chose. For years she wore chains disguised as strength, and now, stripped of everything, she felt the weight of truth pressing against her heart. Her voice shook as she asked, "Then where do I belong?" The human was silent for a moment. His eyes shifted to the sky where the fleets waited like vultures. Then he looked back at her, his voice steady. "Here, with those who see you." The words felt impossible. The galaxy never saw her. Only the legend, only the armor, only the Empire's weapon. But this human was different. His voice reached into the shadows she thought no one could touch. For the first time, she lowered her head. Not in defeat, but in something she did not fully understand, something that felt like trust, but trust was dangerous. She knew the galaxy would not forgive her for this. Already she could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes burning into her. Her empire would call her a traitor. Her enemies would call her weak, and all because one human had dared to look past the armor. "They will come," she whispered. "They will not stop until I am erased." The human's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightened. "Then let them try," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried a sharpness that even the fleets above felt her. Heart raced. How could one human stand so firmly when entire armadas would rise against him? She did not understand, yet she could not look away. His defiance gave her strength she thought she had lost forever. Shadows moved across the wreckage. Her people's ships began to reposition. Scouts prowled the skies. The silence was ending. The galaxy was preparing to strike. The human glanced at the movement above, then back at her. "They will hunt you," he said, "but you won't face them alone." Her breath caught. She shook her head. "If you stand with me, they will hunt. You too." He gave a small, tired smile. "They already do." Her chest ached. The words broke something inside her. This human was not saving her for power, not for advantage. He was choosing to stand beside her simply because he could see her, and that choice was more terrifying to the galaxy than any weapon in the shadows. Of the broken ships, rumors spread. Voices whispered. The human touched her. The human freed her. The human stood where no one else dared. Fear grew, not of her broken armor, but of the bond forming between her and the human. Because if humans could see through the strongest chains, what else could they destroy? The alien warrior felt the fear too, but not for herself. For him, he was just one man against the fury of empires, against fleets and councils and worlds united in silence. And yet he stood there, unmoving, his gaze unshaken. Something inside her shifted. Something she had buried long ago. Loyalty not to her empire, not to her chains, but to him. Her hand trembled as she reached out, hesitant, unsure. Her fingers brushed his arm. It was a small touch, but it carried more weight than all the battles she had ever fought. "You should not trust me," she whispered. "I was their weapon." The human's eyes softened. He placed his hand gently over hers. "No," he said firmly. "You were never theirs." Her heart thundered. The shadows of the battlefield felt less heavy, the silence less cruel. For the first time she was not alone, but the danger was real. Above, her empire's flagship moved into position, its lights burning like an angry star. The hunt had begun. She turned to the human, fear and strength battling inside her. "They are coming," she said. The human nodded once, his voice steady. "Then we face them together." In the silence, a bond had formed, fragile, hidden, but stronger than steel. A bond born not from war but from truth. A bond the galaxy could not allow to exist. And yet, it was too late. The shadows had already chosen their side. The hunt begins. The silence finally broke. Shadows in the sky moved as her empire's fleet came alive. Warships glided into position, their weapons glowing like angry suns. Commanders barked orders, their voices carried across channels. The galaxy had seen enough. The warrior without her armor was no longer their symbol. She was their shame. The human stood beside her, his stance calm, but his eyes sharp. He knew what was coming. He knew entire armadas would descend to erase her. Erase this moment. Erase the truth that had been revealed. She felt the weight of their judgment pressing down on her. Every ship above screamed for her destruction. Her empire would not allow her secret to exist. She was no longer their blade, she was a broken chain, and broken chains were dangerous. "They will kill me," she whispered, her voice shaking. "And they will kill you for standing here." The human glanced at her, his jaw tight. "Let them try," he said. His voice was calm, fearless, but fear burned in her chest, not for herself. For him, he was only one man, fragile compared to the fury of fleets, yet he stood as if he carried the strength of worlds. Lights flashed in the distance. Enemy ships locked onto their position. The hunt had begun. The human turned toward her. "Can you move?" She nodded weakly. Her body still trembled, her armor gone, her strength fading. But her spirit was different now. It burned with something new. Not chains, not orders. Choice. Together they stumbled across the wreckage. The human led her into the ruins of a broken cruiser. Smoke and fire trailed behind them as shots rained from above. The ground shook. The sky turned red with burning metal. Inside the wreck, the air was thick and hot. The walls groaned with every strike from above. Yet the human's voice remained steady, guiding her through the shadows. "Stay low," he said. "Keep moving." Her heart raced. For years she had been the one to lead, the one to command. Now she was the one being guided. For the first time, she was not the weapon. She was the one being protected. Outside, the hunt grew louder. Ships roared across the skies. Troops landed in waves. Engines howled. The Empire was throwing everything to capture or kill her. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They will burn worlds to erase me." The human looked back at her, his eyes steady. "Then we run until they can't." She stared at him in disbelief. How could one man speak against empires, speak against fleets as if it was nothing? Yet when she looked into his eyes, she believed him. Shadows stretched across the ruins. Soldiers of her own kind spread through the battlefield, their weapons ready, their orders clear. Erase the warrior, erase the human, erase the truth. She pressed her back against the broken wall, her breath uneven. "They are my people," she whispered. "I fought beside them. And now they hunt me." The human placed his hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "Then fight for yourself," he said, "not for them." His words cut through the fear. For the first time, she saw a path beyond the chains, beyond the war, beyond the lies. The ground shook violently. Explosions tore through the ruins. The soldiers were close now. Their voices echoed in the dust. The human raised his weapon at last, his eyes sharp, his voice low. "Stay behind me." Her chest tightened. No one had ever stood in front of her. No one had ever shielded her. For all her battles, all her wars, she had always been the weapon, never the one worth protecting. Yet here was a single human, standing. Between her and the fury of her empire, the shadows grew darker. The soldiers poured in, their weapons glowing in the smoke, their eyes filled with rage. "Target the human," one of them shouted. Her heart froze. She realized the empire feared not her broken body, but the human beside her. They feared what he saw. They feared what he had done. He had shattered their greatest lie. The human's voice cut through the chaos. "They don't fear you anymore," he said. "They fear the truth." The soldiers opened fire. The ruins lit up with burning light. The battle for survival had begun. She tightened her grip on a broken shard of her armor, her heart pounding. For the first time, she would not fight for an empire. For the first time, she would fight for herself, and for him. The hunt had begun. But so had her freedom. The last stand. The ruins shook under the fire of war. Walls cracked, metal screamed, and smoke poured through. Every broken gap, soldiers of her empire closed in from all sides, their weapons glowing like fire in the shadows. The alien warrior pressed her back against the wall, her breath ragged, her body ached, weak without the armor she once carried. Yet inside her chest burned a new fire, one she did not recognize. A fire born not from chains, not from orders, but from choice. The human stood in front of her, his weapon raised. His figure seemed small compared to the storm around them, yet his presence filled the ruins with unshakable strength. "They will crush us," she whispered, fear trembling in her voice. The human glanced back at her, calm even as the world collapsed. "Then we make them bleed first," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes carried something more. Resolve, the kind of resolve that no empire could break. The soldiers poured in, shouting, their footsteps echoing, their weapons fired, the walls burned. Sparks lit the darkness. The human moved quickly, his rifle spitting fire. His aim was sharp, each shot cutting through the storm. Watched in awe. For all her years of war, she had never seen courage like this. Not the courage of armies, not the courage of chains, but the courage of one man who refused to surrender. Something inside her cracked open. Her fear began to twist into strength. Her hands tightened around the broken shard of armor she carried. It was no longer a cage, it was now a blade. With a scream, she leapt into the fight. Her shard sliced through weapons, through armor, through the lies her empire had wrapped around her. The soldiers hesitated, their feared champion, once their weapon, now turned against them. The human fought beside her, back to back, their movements sharp and united. Every strike, every shot carried a message. This was no longer war for empire. This was war for freedom. Above them, the fleet rumbled. Shadows of warships moved across the sky. Bombardments shook the ground. Entire cities could fall in seconds. "They'll level the planet," she gasped, her eyes wide with terror. The human fired another shot, smoke rising from his weapon, his voice calm. "Then this is where we stand." Her chest tightened. The words felt final, heavy. She realized he did not see this as death. He saw it as truth. If they were to fall, they would fall standing free, not chained. The soldiers regrouped, their numbers overwhelming. Dozens poured through the fire and dust, their voices a storm of rage. She felt the weight of despair pressing against her again. So many. Too many. Her body was tired. Her breath was weak. But then the human's hand brushed against hers. Only, for a second, steady and strong. His voice low. "Don't break." Her heart pounded. The fear inside her shattered. She let out a scream that shook the ruins, a scream of defiance, of freedom, of rage against every chain that had bound her. The soldiers faltered. Fear spread among them. Not fear of her strength, but fear of what she represented. A weapon turned human, a cage broken. The galaxy had never seen it before. Together, they fought. Every strike, every breath, every moment pulled them closer. Shadows fell under their defiance, and yet the storm never stopped. The Empire's flagship loomed above, its cannons glowing, preparing to erase the battlefield entirely. She looked up, despair flooding her chest. "We can't stop that," she whispered. The human's eyes followed hers, calm even in the face of annihilation. "Maybe not," he said, "but we can make them remember this moment." Her heart broke and healed in the same instant. His voice carried a truth greater than victory. They were not fighting to survive, they were fighting to prove the galaxy wrong. The ground cracked, the sky glowed. The last stand had begun, and in that moment, as fire rained and shadows fell, the alien warrior realized her strength had never been the armor, never the empire. It was the bond beside her, the human who saw her when no one else could. Together, they stood against the storm, and the galaxy trembled. The truth. The galaxy feared. The sky burned red. The flagship's cannons glowed brighter than suns. Every soldier, every fleet, every empire voice called for their end. The alien warrior stood beside the human, her chest heaving, her hands stained. With fire and dust, the ruins around them groaned, shaking under the storm. The human's weapon smoked. Empty now, yet his grip was steady. His eyes locked on the shadows above, calm even as destruction closed in. "This is it," she whispered. Her voice broke. "They will erase us." The human turned to her, his gaze sharp and unshaken. "No," he said. "They will remember us." His words struck her like lightning. For years she had been the Empire's weapon, her name a curse, her armor a chain. But now, standing with him, she was something else. Something her people could never understand. Free. The fleets prepared to fire. Soldiers shouted. The galaxy's leaders watched from their hidden stations, waiting to see the end. But before the cannons could strike, the warrior stepped forward. Her voice rose through the ruins, loud and raw. "I am no longer your weapon," she screamed. Her cry carried across the battlefield, through the silence, through the endless stars. It was not just a scream. It was truth. The human's voice followed, steady and strong. "You made her your cage," he shouted. "But we broke it." The fleets hesitated, commanders froze. For the first time, doubt spread among them. If their greatest champion had turned against them, if a human had seen the truth behind their chains, what else could be exposed? The flagship's cannons dimmed, only for a moment, but enough. Enough for the galaxy to realize the truth they feared most. It was not her armor that made her strong. It was not her empire that made her feared. It was not her battles that made her legend. It was her choice, and it was humanity who gave it back to her. The soldiers wavered. Some lowered their weapons. Fear crawled through their ranks, not fear of her, but fear of what she represented. A weapon could be controlled, but a free soul could not. The human stepped beside her, his presence unshaken, his voice calm. "You don't have to kneel to them anymore." Her heart burned. For the first time, she lifted her head not as a slave, not as a weapon, but as herself. The fleets above roared with confusion. Leaders shouted. Armadas threatened to fire. But the moment had already spread. Millions across the stars had seen it. A single human standing against empires. A warrior freed from chains. The galaxy could not erase it. Her eyes filled with tears. She turned to the human, her voice trembling. "You saw me, when no one else ever could." The human nodded once. "And now they see you too," he said. The flagship above hummed with power, but the silence of hesitation was louder. The truth had cracked their control. No weapon, no army, no empire could undo what had been seen. The alien warrior felt the chains of her past crumble. Her armor lay broken, her enemies trembled, her empire raged, but she was free. Together, she and the human walked forward through the ruins, not as warrior and soldier, not as weapon and watcher, but as two who carried a truth the galaxy could not kill. And as they stepped into the shadow of fleets and empires, one fact became clear. It was never the armor the galaxy feared. It was the human's gaze, because humanity had proven they could see past lies, past cages, past fear, and in the end, that truth was the most dangerous weapon of all.